And we are once again recording. Awesome. Happy Sunday, everyone. As always, I am Brian Kynes, the curator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use a variety of different types of tabletop role-playing games, and then we have heavily infused and homebrewed our own stuff into those games to create the mess that you're about ready to see. Okay? These awesome folks are here to join me once again on this Sunday afternoon, and they are going to help me write this story one chapter at a time. Let's go ahead and go through some brief introductions with everyone before we go ahead and jump back into Plan B for tonight. I'll go ahead and speak on Danny's behalf. He is not able to make it to this one again just because of work, but I have talked to him on the phone about a few things, as I typically do, so we know what he's going to be doing and what he'll be getting into. Then let's go ahead and go to Colby. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Colby, and I'll be playing Arsin, who is a Draken monk, but that is also slowly revealing his past self.
A fair assumption. That works. That works. Okay. All right, Belly, you're next. Go ahead.
Um, I am playing Azara, who is a pretty cool, like, homebrew race, but is currently disguised as not her normal self, but a cousin named Aluna, and they are sitting in a restaurant currently. Or about to be seated in a restaurant currently.
Right on. And dude, you've got to keep reminding me of that because I keep forgetting you're pulling that shit. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, it's not Azara, it's not normal Azara, it's not old man, it's not whoever was before old man. It is in fact the random cousin.
The random cousin. I like it. It works, man. It'll get you out of pinch. If you get it down right, it'll work. Jeremy, you're next, sir. Go ahead.
It's the twice removed cousin.
Right on.
I'll be playing the part of Rook, the Echo Knight Boldros that just recently revealed that he's got a Banshee whale.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty dope. I'm going to tell you the truth. When you use that, I was pretty happy with it. That was really cool, actually. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for all being able to show up and whatnot. We have two different storylines going on that we're going to try to get into in one lane. We're going to give it a shot and see what happens without having to elbow it or push and shove too much, just because we're not trying to bottleneck this. We're trying to have fun with it, right? So we still have Rok and Arsin are still up there, and they drunk the herbal tea and they went to La La Land, and they're fighting off spirits, memories, demons. We don't even quite know what the hell we would call it, but something's definitely going on that is helping these two explore some aspects of the Netherfall and maybe giving them some insight into some of their own issues and some issues that could be laying out before them. I think that's fair. And then we also have Azara, like she said. She is going to be going into Leah's, a home of rare and exquisite cuisine. But we're going to start off with these two gentlemen first and continue that on. And then we will move on to see how Azara and Finn are holding up and if they're able to stomach the calamari that might be served to them soon. So let me go ahead and move this around. She has weird shit there. Make no mistake. Weird stuff. Okay, so
Cowtonic unicorn tongue.
Yeah. All day. All day, that kind of stuff. Okay. So, here's a situation you guys find yourselves in. Okay? Now, I've looked back through the video to see kind of who was doing what and all this, that, and the other. I think this radius around you, Colby, do you remember what Arsin had done here to create this circular pattern around himself, or was that some other character had cast that upon you. I think there was a swarm that they were moving of
Hadar,
insects.
wasn't it?
What's that?
Arms of Hadar.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that should have been gone because that was like a one-turn thing.
Okay. So let me go ahead and take care of that. Shape. Hold on, make sure I didn't mess something up there real quick. Okay, that's Arson. You have to shape. And that was that. Okay, just a minute. So I'm thinking this one doesn't seem to be, let's see. There we go. Now she's gone. And gone. Okay. So as you draw, and we're using that Arms of Hadar, can you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you give me a brief moment and kind of remind me what effect that had on them? Explain to me again how that looked coming from Arson as you cast it.
Forgot I had the site. Maybe I should look it up on the book. Hold up.
No, and just, if you remember the mechanic, just kind of like what it looked like.
I think it was like, there were like tentacles forming around him, like either on the ground or from him, and like they were just going out and like at least like taking away, like sort of taking away their reactions.
Okay. And these arms, they look like black, long tentacles?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I'm going to do something to you here, okay? For theatrics. Now, Rook, if I'm not mistaken, you acted pretty much at the top of the turn. You had the best initiative out of everybody, did you not?
No, that was me.
That was you,
Okay.
okay. So let's go ahead and start with that moment. Let's just start at the top of the initiative turn, okay? After you let loose of this banshee whale, I'm sorry, just a moment. Okay. So, after you slam out that banshee whale, which was awesome at the end of the last episode, these Arms of Hadar, which you normally would only cast, they would only last for one turn, then they would dissipate. Colby. Something else happens here that you're not quite expecting. Okay? I'm curious, with it being your turn and with those arms being gone, what was your plan? Do you have something you were going to be doing on your next turn? Were you going to go into attack some of these things that were held down? Did you have a certain strategy? Just give me an idea.
I remember right when I actually used those first, and then I am doing a leap attack after
You did.
for
You
another
used
one.
Advanced martial arts, which is awesome. Okay.
I think I was. I just don't remember. I just don't remember what I was gonna do after that or at the moment.
It's okay. So as your turn begins and you're starting to just give a brief moment and think about the way it lays out in front of you, you can see that there are still some hiding in the distance beneath the trees. You can see some are out in the open. You can see that Rook's echo is still sustained and it's back behind you as you're kind of whipping around. And as you go to muster up the next round of attacks, let's say maybe at number 4, maybe you're going to look north and see if there's something else that may be coming at you guys. You start to hear hundreds of whispers. Now they start out faint at first, but they linger really, really long, and before a moment has passed, you're having trouble focusing and concentrating on what you are getting ready to do right now. Okay? You just did this awesome martial arts combo move where you're doing a leap attack, you're using your movement, and as you look down at your feet, you can see that these arms of Hadar are starting to look a little bit different than what you expected when you conjured them, when you summoned them. You don't know. Roll me a wisdom check, please. This is basic wisdom. And this will help me kind of describe to you. Okay. What'd you get?
9.
A 9.
9.
Okay. You're kind of losing track. In the back of your mind during all this, even through the excitement of the battle, you realize that there's still a part of you that's sitting on the courtyard of a monastery high up above the city of New Gemdar on a snow-covered mountain face, and that this isn't exactly where you are. But in this moment, it almost gives you that strange sensation like the moment where you realize that you're in a dream that you can't control exactly. You know what I mean? That awkward kind of feeling right before maybe you would wake up or something like that. And as you're looking down, these tentacles have changed. You see armor. You see bodies reaching up through this void that you'd opened up by using the darker side of your powers. The part of you that is comforting and gets you by, yet maybe the part of you that you need to get the furthest from. And as you look down amongst them, this isn't anything that you remember, but do you? Bloodstained, shining black and gold and silver colored armors. The arms of these, what seem to be undead souls of knights and fighters and warriors, are now what reaches up through the ground, instead of these large black tentacles that you had called up to hold on to these Murk Elves. And it seems like when you look at them, just as soon as you have the thought, who are they coming for? This is not of my, this is nothing I've done. One grabs a hold of your ankle. And then another. And then almost like watching wheat blow in a field, everything starts to shift. And all the arms and the hands, old, dried up, decrepit, dead hands, almost like a zombie's hands, are reaching up. And they're clinging on to you in the same way they would have clinged onto these elves. And as you look down, I need you one more time to do me. This time we're going to do this as an insight check.
Uh, 10.
A 10. You look down, and somebody in this mass of these dead arms, and mind you, this is just in that same radius around you that you had the spell up. So it's not everywhere, it's just right around you. Rook, you notice this. Okay? But you have only the moment to notice it. We'll get to your reaction to it in a moment, okay? As you look down and you can't help but peer and you feel your eyes widening and you can feel this worry and this very familiar yet painful guilt begin to fill up in your chest, Arsin. When you look down, you match and you see, and your eyes meet, a familiar face. And this is the way I will explain the face with a tail. You see a young knight. You can't tell exactly what color his armor is, just because of all the blood and mud. And, you know, it's hard to tell as he reaches up through this sea of other knights and other warriors that are just trying to reach up out of this hellish-like opening where once tentacles were. And his face looks up at you, and it's a younger person's face. Long black hair stuck to the side of their forehead, covered in blood, and his eyes. His piercing eyes look up at you. And you hear these words in a very low and humbled voice. You're almost holding your breath. You can't imagine what this image, this one face that you're able to sort out and connect with, is getting ready to say to you. You can't imagine the words. You feel responsible for this, Arsin, and you don't know why. But you almost know the words that he's going to say in that moment. You've heard these before. You're having almost like a deja vu moment right now. And he looks up and he says, I forgive you. And as he says that, his hand recedes. You've seen this before. You've felt like this before. Although you can't explain it and you don't remember when. That face is familiar to you, Arsin. That warrior, that knight, that person forgave you for something you had done. And it changed you somehow. Okay? As the other arms begin to form up around him, Rook, this is what you see in this moment. You see the elves, the Murk Elves, are starting to slink back and move away from this as if they're fearful. Almost like if some rat was in a corner and all of a sudden a flash bomb went off and they were trying to escape from it. There's something they're not wanting to play with here. You too, Rook, also understand that you're sitting somewhere at the Sanctuary of Wrath. But as this scene kind of overtook you guys, it's hard to determine that difference between how real is this and does this affect me on the other side. You know what I mean? I would like to give you a chance to tell me what your instinct is and how you would react to this. Please.
I think it'd be kind of a snap decision, because where those tentacles are coming from, like, that's not a place he is a stranger to. So if it's not like outright trying to yank him into the hole.
Well, it seems like they're coming up and reaching around him now.
Right.
They're coming up and wrapping around him as he stands. Yes.
Right, but does it look like they're just kind of doing their thing, or does it look like they're kind of gearing up to snatch him?
Roll a perception or insight, you decide.
Either one's plus 5.
A 12. What you see isn't the exact thing he sees, and I'll explain with the 12. What you see are the tentacles begin to turn into actual thorned vines and cursed pieces of woods that look like your surroundings, that look like thornwood. So what you're seeing now are twisting vines coming up, and you hear the same kind of moans and wails, but they seem to be wrapping themselves around him, almost trying to encompass and encapsule him, as they're almost up to his mid-thigh now. That's what that looks like. You don't see him going down. These things are growing up around him.
I think with that, Rook would at the very least approach. Possibly even putting a hand on Arsin's shoulder. So if he gets pulled, he can grab him real quick and try to yank him.
Okay. So do you keep your echo active?
Yes.
When you move up and go to step into that area is still around him. And right before you take that last step, I'm going to say you're about right here, okay? You see that massive aura of those vines and stuff, and some of them kind of stop and start to slowly begin to move your way just a little bit. So I'll give you that chance to react to that.
I think he'd stop short.
Okay.
Because
Are
it would
you
be no good to anybody if he starts getting pulled in too.
are you saying anything?
What's going on, Arsin?
You guys go ahead and play it out. Arsin, at this moment, you look down and all the hands of these fallen knights and warriors that have large gashes in their armor, fingers missing. It's morbid. These empty, soulless faces of like zombie, like dried up hands are just reaching up and climbing up you, and now they're almost up to your thigh and your waistline. What are you doing, Arsin?
I think at that moment, if like seeing how they're getting like climbing up him, he would like try to break free from all that and like try to like at least lessen the amount of hands grabbing at him. Just by
Okay.
trying to walk his way out of that, because he's not exactly sure if there is any killing these guys even more.
Okay. Based on the saving throw and things that you were doing earlier, go ahead and do me a wisdom saving throw at disadvantage. And you would hear Rook asking you the question that he did. You're able to interact however you would choose to there.
It'll be a regular 20.
A regular 20. With that, you begin to... That's with disadvantage?
Yes, I rolled a 17 both times.
Oh, great. Okay. With that, you're able to start pulling free for just a moment, but you're not able to get completely free of them. As if you try to move, you're not able to move left, right, up, or down. But you're actually starting to move your legs up, and are you using your hands to a degree? Are you just all legs, or how are you trying to fight these things back?
Yeah, I feel like he would like use his hands like to at least to get rid of like the hands and arms that's like around his waist so he can move his legs.
When you do, you look down and you have dark black armored hands. And it hits you like a freaking wrecking ball. You see your hand the minute you went in with theirs, and when you start fighting their hands off and stuff, and you can see the unnaturally crafted claws that are on the end of these dark metal gauntlets. And these aren't the spiritual looking ones, these look like the real ones. Okay? The memories just start flooding back to you. In that moment, as you're fighting through this with that 20, and you're focused in on these moments, Rook, you hear a voice. Roll me a... Do I want you to roll for that? No, it probably wouldn't be necessary. You would hear the voice of Tanema echo through the background of this place. He would be saying, that is enough. That is enough. Come back now. And you would hear it kind of haunt through. Now, these words would be kind of confusing because you're not exactly sure how does someone just come back now, right? But it does remind you wholeheartedly that you are in some kind of unrealistic reality right now. You're in some kind of other realm. Okay? So as he's physically fighting with these things and trying to push them off to him, having some success, but just kind of neutral ground, and you're standing on the edge, Rook, is there anything you're particularly doing? As you can hear Tanima's voice reaching out to you, telling you that this is enough, and it's time to come back.
I'm going to step forward kind of quickly, like a quick step forward, and grab Arsin and just try to strip him away from it.
Okay.
As I do, it's just let him go.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me that's going to be strength. Go ahead and roll me an athletics check, please.
22.
A 22. Okay, just a minute. Let's see how you did. You did real good, because I did not. You did real good, sir. I got a 3 and a 3. It wasn't great. Okay. You like tripled me, asshole. So anyway, okay, I'll give you that. So you're able to walk up to him with a 5 foot of movement. You're able to grab and pull him back. How far are you trying? Because we're going to say, right here would have been the end of the radius of this occurrence, okay? So you trying to drag him all the way back to where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, if it takes me grabbing him and throwing him behind me, either way, I want him out of it.
Okay, Arsin, I want you to do an athletics check with advantage because Rook is helping you. You're muted, my friend. I couldn't
14.
hear. 14. Okay, let's see. Well, with that roll that I rolled a minute ago. Yeah, disadvantage from the last one. Even worse. Okay, yes. 14 is just enough to be able to pull this off. Okay? So as you go to yank him free of these hands and stuff like that, and you're just seeing the thorns and the vines and stuff like that, you can tell, Rook, that Arsin is submerged in the illusion of this place. It has come over him. Whatever is happening has his mind. You can tell, even in the eyes of a Draken, you can see something is panicked. When you grab onto him and you're pulling on him, he is grabbing onto you with like a reckless abandon. Not a way that a tough guy would, trying to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? And when you're able to pull him back out of that, when you land, you both start to smell something. And you smell almost this kind of... It's a combination of the tea that you had drank, and that bitter sweet taste kind of enters in both your mouths again. You're being reminded that that's something that you did just before this all started. And these aromas of these smokes, almost as if you were in some kind of head shop, some kind of very fragrant kind of incense kind of smells come over the two of you. And as that happens, this place seems to fade away. As you can just kind of still hear the heavy breathing, because now where you've been transported to is the actual temple itself again. Okay? So, having said that, you find yourselves in the exact position that you were in this other realm. Rook, you'd kind of be, you can describe it to me, but however you yanked him out, I'd say maybe you even fell from it, trying to get him pulled back as you've landed on one knee and you're down. Arsin, you would find yourself in a half push-up position on one knee, one leg extended, trying to push yourself up with both arms. And as you're looking down at your hands, from the thorns in the foliage, in the dark, cursed coverage of this landscape, you see the stones begin to form underneath of your hands, letting you know that you're back at the temple in that courtyard. And you see the illusion of the dark armor fade off of your hands as you're looking down at them. Okay? As that happens, Rook, you look over and you can see that Yakon Ru has a large, almost like some kind of horn that was strapped around his side. And he's blowing in this thing, and it seems to be blowing out a crap load of some kind of almost bluish-hued smoke. It smells like cherry blossoms and lavender, but it's thick and it's also kind of hard, you know, and he's blowing it around you guys, almost creating like a fog that encompasses and wraps around and through your hair, through your hood, around your bodies, and you can see it encompassing both of you as it starts to dissipate and slowly goes into the stonework. Tanima briskly walks up to you, and he puts his hand on your shoulder, and he waves his other hand here in front of your face, and he's saying some words in a language, a quick chattered type language that you can't quite understand. Looks more fitting of the small goblin looking kind of creature that he is. And as he gets done chattering off a few words, he looks at you and he goes, "Welcome back. That took a turn, did it not? You do not appear to be injured or harmed in any way, so I'm assuming that you've learned something, yes? What about your friend?"
I'm not sure what to make of what happened.
Yakon walks over and tells Tanima, he says, "I'll tend to this one. Go check on the Draken." And he kneels down slowly, and you can hear a couple bones crack in his knees as he's a large, lumbering creature, as I've described you many times. As he leans down, you get a brief look at the clouded over white eyes as he parts his hair that's all matted and braided ritualistically, and he looks into you and takes a deep breath through very black skin like nostrils. The skin of the mouth of Yakon Ru and the skin around his eyes, when you get that matted hair out of the way, is a very dark, almost like a gorilla skin in a way. And as he takes a very deep breath, you see a little bit of that smoke and that vapor go up his nose and into his mouth, as if he's inhaling it and summoning that smoke back to him in some kind of strange way. He nods and he looks at you. And he says, "I can only tell from what I have seen on this side of things. Whatever haunts you is elusive. But I'm not quite so sure that you don't haunt it as well, Rook." And that's odd. I don't know if Rook had ever considered that. You know, you were there looking for answers, but at the same time, maybe there's something that you trouble that lives there, not the other way around, right? He gives you a nod on the shoulder, which is really, really beefy now. And he stands up and they both go over to Arsin. Okay, in that moment, is there anything you need to say, or are you just kind of trying to think about what transpired just now and trying to come to conclusions, Jeremy? How are you wanting to do this?
Yeah, I'm kind of analyzing what happened. Did I hear what it said to him?
No.
All I knew was just within his arms of Adar, everything turned into thorns,
And turned on him.
turned on him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he also
Which,
conjured
in
up a
Rook's
darkness.
mind, it's just as simple as the Netherfall is trying to take him back.
Fair.
Which is, that's not something Rook is too much a stranger of. That's why he doesn't deal with it as much as he used to.
Yeah. As you're sitting there and you're seeing these two kind of talk in, I don't know what you'd want, debrief maybe would be the word to use here. Kind of debriefing Arsin on what just happened and everything like that. Your throat hurts a little bit. And you feel like you have scratched an itch somehow deep inside yourself, Rook. Something about releasing that wail and doing that, you feel awake and alive in a way that you don't remember ever feeling. You are the perpetual gray cloud, right? You've always got this something on your shoulder. And there's always been all these secrets and things, and you never can quite feel 100% on any given day. When you get up, it's always, there's this heavy burden on you. You know what I mean? You don't ever quite feel as healthy as you should, which is one of the reasons why you're not a very strong for your race. There's always some kind of emotional or psychological frailty about you. And it's gone. And you can't help but think that the scream had something to do with it as you're sitting there and analyzing these things. Okay? Moving on to Arsin. Arsin, as you are starting to push yourself up, you do, and you see the short and stern hand of Tanima reach down as he stands over top of you. And he goes, so tell me, what exactly is it that you found while you were there? Did you see anything? Did you see your true self? Or did you see the future? What did you see? Do you take his hand?
Yeah, he would take his hand and saying, I don't know if I saw myself, but I definitely did not see the future. I think I saw the past.
The past, you think? He looks up at Yakon Rue, and Yakon crosses his arms and takes a big sigh, and he says, maybe next time not so much tea. And he kind of nods. Tanima kind of chuckles, and he goes, I thought they could handle it. They're from this. You're probably right. He gets kind of close and he looks at you. And he takes his hands and he grabs your face. And frames it. And he's kind of looking at you. And he's studying you and he's studying your eyebrows and stuff. And it's awkward. Like, you're like, dude, you had all this shit happening to you. And he looks into your eyes for a minute. He says a word. Then he touches you again. He's using a monk ability. Let me make sure I can do this. Oh yes, I can. By God. Roll a... Roll me a 1d20 and add your constitution modifier to it. Arsin.
23.
That's awesome. That's real awesome. In that moment, any kind of cloudiness that you were feeling from being in that position, that I don't want to say you were poisoned or encharmed or some way, but you seem to be able to focus now, and you're seeing things with clarity. Okay? And you're remembering those words that he just said to you. Tell me what you saw. Tell me what happened. Do you have anything that you're saying in that moment? As it seems like the touch of that man's hands has gave you clarity where whatever effect you were under while in that place, or whatever residual effects were lingering on from the tea that you had drank, seemed to have been taken away. You seem to be cured of them by the touch of this master. In that, do you reply to his question or respond to his question?
Yes, he would say, I saw my armor again, or at least my other kind, and after the spell I cast, it seemed to transform and turn onto me as like fallen warriors I might have had slain in battle. And one particular looked like a bright knight, and he said he forgave me.
Just a minute. Just a minute. I gotta do something. Because there's a chance of something here. I didn't consider. This is what's fun about doing this. I didn't consider this until this moment. I have to check something. Huh. Okay. Huh. That's interesting. He looks at you and he cocks an eyebrow. And he looks over the Yakon ruin. He rings his hand up and moves his fingers kind of slowly and says, I need to be shown. A young knight, you say? Show us. And Yakon, as he's walking over, you can see him taking a drink out of something cupped up in his hand. And as he does, he takes it off, and some of the drippings of the liquid are still around some of that large chin hair and stuff that he has, as his face practically is covered up but bare around here. And as he takes that hand and he sloshes off some of it, you can see him sitting down the teapot and things that he had before. And he goes over to you and he closes his eyes and he looks up. He takes a deep breath. He begins to breathe out slow once again, and that smoke begins to roll out of his nose. And that smell of cherry blossoms and jasmine fills the air once again. And he puts his hand on your chest. And as he does, you can see him move a little bit and twitch a little bit. And he's like going through the motions. And as he does, and you look down, and Rook, you're seeing this too. Tanima has grabbed a hold of his other small finger, of his large finger with his small hand, and is holding on to them, and they are sharing a vision in some fashion here. When it ends, as you're kind of rethinking and reliving this moment again, just moments after it just happened, Arsin, Yakon Ru's eyes open up at the exact same time in unison that Tanima's do. But when Tanima's do, Tanima has a very firm look upon his face. It is different. It is unforgiving. It is stone. It is not clever or compassionate like the young, or like the elder goblin martial arts master that you've seen before. This is a different side to him. And he walks up to you as Yakon Ru takes a step back. You can hear the large hooved foot kind of take a slow, cautious step backward. And he gets in close to you and he says, "And did you believe him?" Did you, or do you believe that you were forgiven? Arsin? Or are you still looking for redemption? What do you say to that?
Like Arson, no, like after seeing many sort of little visions here and there since he awakened in this city and temple, that he would say, and he would start to say, like, I might still be looking for it. So he would respond saying, to me, only one fallen warrior saying that is not enough.
He looks at you and he squints a bit. His mouth tightens and his eyes narrow even more, and he looks even closer to you and he nods. And he goes, the lesson to be learned from the death of another is truly a dangerous one, Arsin, because they only get to give it to you once. Make of it what you will and do the best with it that you can. That person's forgiveness is a blessing. And he gives you a nod, and if they can forgive you, anyone can. Maybe even yourself. And there's a bit of wisdom in that, right? There's a moment there where you're kind of like, huh? And I do want you to think about that. If this person could forgive you for something and you're not even sure if you're responsible or whatever, you know, your checks kind of lean that way, but you're not quite sure the details of it. You know that you'd seen it before. And if that person dying by what could possibly be your hand is willing to forgive you, you know, maybe forgiving yourself. And also thinking about the idea that this all came from you drawing upon that dark power again. You were kind of in a moment, right, Colby? You were kind of like, well, this will work. This is good. And you drew upon that, and it made sense. But in that place, this was a repercussion of it. And I want to explain to both of you that these things that kind of happened inside of this place were almost like the things that you're going through in your mind put into a semi-physical form. You know? And that's the reality of this tea and what this kind of puts you through. Does that make any sense at all? Okay. With that, you would see a familiar Felidae lion monk with a vestment on and long, wild dreads and braids of golden and brown matted hair would come walk up, and he would say, Master Tanima, we need the courtyard for a while. Is this... He clears his throat, as he often does, as this seems like he's had some kind of injury to his vocal cords, as you noticed before when you spoke to him. And he dryly clears his throat again and says, has your session concluded with the visitors? Tanima turns around to him and says, I believe this session particularly has concluded, yes. I believe there needs to be more. And I will, on the advisement of a friend, use less tea next time. Can we agree on this? He looks to both of you. Oh, what are you all saying?
Maybe less tea for him. I wasn't bothered as much.
Right
He
on.
seemed to have
Lightweight.
most of it.
Yeah. And Colby, you? Anything? Or are you just nodding?
Yeah, he would nod and but like mumble. Yeah, because he would mumble like, at least I have the chance to not remember that place.
Okay. So, As that happens, Drayden gives a respectful nod to both of them, and sticks his arm out and reaches to the right, and you see a Black Panther version of a Felidae. Seems to be female of some kind in some kind of warrior's garb. Walk up towards the edge of the ring and nod. And as those two go through, Drayden goes back and talks to this Black Panther Felidae female. Yakonru goes ahead and nods and puts a hand past you both, a large hand, and ushers you to the central stairway that leads out of the temple. And he goes, I'll take you to the entrance. And he begins to kind of march slowly as those heavy hoof prints seem to hit on the ground and echo throughout this chamber, as it is quiet up here, other than the howl of wind every once in a while, as it is very dark out. So he's going to usher you that direction. Is there anything else you guys wish to do up here before you take his hint, or are you going to follow?
I'm going to follow, but I want to make sure a person's good and up on his feet and with sound enough mind.
Okay. He seems to be particularly okay. I mean, you don't know exactly what it is that Tanima did to him, but when he went and touched his face and was expecting him, there was something exchanged. There was a word said. There was some kind of skill used. You could recognize that Rook, but you just don't know what it was. Some mystical monk shit, right? I want you to roll me a perception check.
That's an 8.
Nope. Nothing at all. And the ghost is back. So, there you go. So, with that, he ushers you towards the large central door. And as he stands there, he looks to both of you and he nods. And he says, there is no scheduled time to be here again. The journey is to be taken at your own speed and in your own time. We'll be here. Just make sure when you do come that you will be here entirely in respect and in spirit. He gives a nod, and he goes back and he stands with his head down and the hair hanging low, a hold of the large wooden bolts that begin the process of locking up this door and moving the large round stone pieces that go into place. With that, you guys would be standing on the very top of the long stairway that twists and leads down to the lower city. Okay? So, for the sake of clarity, with that, the door slowly begins to shut behind you too as you're looking down, and some of those lights on those towers and those lanterns and shit slowly shine through, and you can hear the sound of Drayden and that female Felidae Black Panther fighting, and loud "Hoo-ha's" and all these kind of things coming and now starting to echo. But as soon as the stone door closes, the silence is just stopped. You can hear maybe a little bit of it on the wind up above the large walls and stuff like that, but it really muffles that sound and just kind of puts an abrupt end to it. As you know, there's hardcore training going in there with one of Drayden's students. With that, do you guys have any conversation you want to have? And give yourselves a little bit of direction here. You know where you think you're headed. You know you've been given the option to meet those people. And plus you've also, you know, I'm not trying to bottleneck anything. You've got a city here. You've got all kinds of shit. So have a conversation in character. and that'll let me know what you guys are going to next, so I can start painting a picture.
Are you all right, Arsin?
I was a little shooken up at first, but whatever he did got rid of it all. So I'm fine for right now.
Curious.
I don't know what you...
Can't help but to wonder. Was that the Netherfall trying to pull you back? My best guy
Alright.
said I was expelled. I don't know why I would want you back.
Well, from what I recall, I wasn't exactly expelled, but more like taken. And they didn't feel like they were pulling me down. They just felt like they were climbing up.
Hold you in place to show you something you needed to see.
Well, that was their intention. They succeeded most of the way.
By the by, let's head in. Sure, there's more to be seen. I'm sure you still have a lot to learn yet.
I'm sure.
Arsin, roll me a perception check.
Nine.
The wind seems to pick up for just a moment. Nothing special. So, now that you guys have checked on each other, what's the goal? You had a conversation, but I still don't know where you're headed.
Following. As I am.
I think it's time we visit those mysterious people.
Best lead we've got so far. Let's go.
Okay. Now, just for clarification, for the folks that are watching this video, and for kind of us too, because we don't do this every single day. You know, there's weeks and things that fall in between this. So, they were offered to meet those people that they fought with in the Netherfall when they fought this mysterious robed figure that was filled with thousands of spiders. And when time slowed down, they were able to defeat that being, that whatever the hell it is whatever you want to call it, right? They were actually joined by two people. One, I believe, introduced. Did they tell you their names? I believe they did. Did they not?
I don't think so. I think they just said where they were, well, just where to meet them.
Okay, because I thought for sure
Or
the female did, but I don't know if the big guy did.
Oridon and Symphona.
That's right. I thought maybe they had. Okay, so, you know, the Symphona looked like a satire, only much more druidess-like than your average satire, and seemed to be weak and ailing of something. And as the other large character seemed to be some kind of monstrous creation of dragon and avian-like qualities with a mortal face, a very strange hybrid, as you saw these dragon-like claw projections erupt from the elbows as he was in the middle of this fight. You've never seen anything quite like this. And they said they want to speak with you about the matter, about them running into you, them knowing that this was going to happen, and foreseeing this and sensing this danger, this breach from the Netherfall into our realm. and they were there to meet you and help you do this. So that's where you guys were headed now. Now, as far as the location of it, I don't think they would have been like, here's a map and detailed description of stuff like that. You may have to ask somebody exactly where to find it. I don't think we were insightful enough to be like, hey, use Google Maps and you can find us here. You know, that didn't go down. So that'll give you a little bit of narrative to look for directions as you get down to the lower part of the city. Okay. And as you
Worst case
guys...
scenario, we know they're in Hamelsbyre.
Kind of. Now, I'm curious, when you say that, what makes you think that you know that they are in Hamelsbyre?
Because you told me it's the Darkwood Huntsmen of Hamelsbyre.
True. If you go to Hamelsbyre looking for these people, I'm going to laugh my ass off at you. That's all I'm saying. But anyway...
That's the lead we've got.
Okay.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they're in there. It just means that they're from there.
Right? I mean, yeah.
Somebody there's
I
bound
can
to know where
introduce
they are.
Yeah.
I can introduce myself if I live in California and say, "Hey, I am from this state, but you are currently living in this other state."
Point made. Point made, sir. Well, either way, it's going to be for some great D&D. I can't wait to see how it goes. So, moving sideways a little bit here, we're going to go up to Skywatch. It being getting into the very late hours of the night. I don't think we've quite moved into the AM yet, but I think we might be. We might be around midnight to 12:30-ish about time now. Okay? I apologize for people that are watching this timeline. If I said it was later than that last time, it's been a month, so cut me a break here. Finn has joined you inside, and Leah has went back to get your order for you, Azara. I believe you've told her you wanted so many portions of this and so many portions of that, and she has went back to go ahead and fetch that for you and wanted you to have a seat and make yourself comfortable while she was doing that. That's what I at least saw when I watched the end of the last video. I saw at least that much, okay? So you've got Finn still standing there, and she has ushered you over to a table. Now, can you remember the description of this place? Or do you remember of any of the other characters that were in this place particularly? Okay. So, I will refresh your memory. Okay. Because I think we maybe went into it, but it's okay to do it again. It's all good, because each time maybe it changes a little. You don't know. So, Leah, which looks a lot like Whoopi Goldberg, with long dreads, and she's dressed up as almost like a half exquisite cuisine maker and half like pirate ship captain. Some of it's a little bit over the top. It looks a little bit too elaborate, and a lot of it's for show, but you can tell that there's real roots in that kind of lifestyle with her. She is definitely not from anywhere close to here. And she has a very warm, inviting type of accent, and doesn't seem to worry about too much of anything. She has a very warm presence and doesn't really know a stranger. And as you first went into this place, and the different smells, some great, some not great, kind of smack you as you come from this place, you automatically have to assume that rare and exquisite cuisine is exactly what it means. Not everything is going to be for everybody. And you definitely smell that when you walk in the front door. Okay? Now, you remember there was a drunk motherfucker laying out on one of the benches outside that was joking about some coin he had made and stuff like that. You wouldn't find someone like that in here particularly. There is a bar, and there are a few people at it, but the way that they have this place decorated up is really, really interesting. This place looks like it's made of parts of actual airships and seagoing ships. They're going for that whole kind of coastal kind of feel. You can actually, it's funny, there's a balcony that is above the main floor of this place, and it is made up of what looks like the front quarter of an actual airship, with beams put into the bottom of it to hold it up, and it is like a loft where certain people were up there, and you can see the lantern light bouncing off the ceiling of this place, and there's chatter. And as you look at the ceiling of this place, there's all kinds of rare and exquisite plants that are hanging and growing from this. And every once in a while, you could swear you see some kind of flutter of something like that, and there are semi-tropical birds that live and move from place to place up inside of the roof of this place, as there are two different skylights. And you look up in the distance and you can see a little bit of silver blown snow blow across there when a gust of wind hits up here in a place. Up in Skywatch, there's a lot of wind. It's very windy up here all the time. And when that wind hits, it kind of makes this place creak a little bit. And things shift a little bit. It has a very homey kind of feel to it. Okay? The downstairs bar that's over in the corner has a lot of the whole, like the airship nets on the side. They have anchors up for things. But there's also there's some other kind of feel here to this. And none of you are familiar with it. Now, I would describe it to the players as almost like a Zambonian, mixed with almost like some kind of Jamaican kind of feel. There's something tribal, but there's something also very festive about it all at the same time. You see these large purple and white feathers that are along the sidewall, and they're put up as a display. They would have to be from a bird that would have to be at least 70 foot long for this to make sense. And these feathers are kind of up as a decoration up against one of the side walls. You can see some different plaques as people were able to eat different kinds of cuisine. And what's interesting is, for instance, I was talking about calamari earlier. There's one actual place, and it looks like it's this tentacle that's made of bronze. And it hangs on the wall. It's like if you took like a 3D image and cut it in half so it could plate and hang on a wall. It looks like a bronze like tentacle. And underneath that seems to be a placard that has a whole bunch of different names that have been etched into it. Obviously some kind of eating challenge from this place. And there are empty places at the bottom of that, just so you guys know. As you're taking this all in, Finn, I don't want to say he stops, because he's been stopped for a little bit. Azara, as you are looking along this place, and you are just childishly like taking in all these sights and wonder, you look across and you realize that he's not doing what you're doing. He's not like oohing and awing like you are. And as you look at him, he's staring up past some of those birds. And at first, your first instinct is to ask him, what he thinks about the birds and things like that. But I want you to roll a insider perception check, either one, and let me know what you get.
Uh, 19 plus 2, so 21.
Awesome. Just before you get ready to ask him, what he thinks, and you're starting to warm up to him a little bit, or starting to become a little bit more trusting of him, and we've established that on the way up here. So you almost feel comfortable enough with wanting to say something to like, aren't the birds beautiful? You can almost imagine yourself getting ready to ask him something like that. But instead, with that high of a check, you realize that he's looking up and he sees the moon through one of those skylights. Part up on him for a minute, and when you look at him, it's almost like he is standing in a beam of that light, taking a deep breath in and relaxing, almost like a Zen kind of thing. It almost makes you stop before the words leave your mouth. Almost like his pictures in our wallpaper now, like the beams shooting through the trees there. It's very similar to that. And he opens up his eyes slowly and he looks over towards you. I hope you don't mind, but I need to step outside for just a moment. Do you plan to stay here to eat, or were you just simply picking up these things to take to your family? Which one did you choose?
So this is still her as a Luna.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's kind of just like, I think I will have mine here, and I will take the rest home, but I plan on sitting and enjoying the sights.
Well, I hope that you don't find it rude of me. But I have a few things to think about, and the weather has presented me an opportunity to do that.
Go enjoy your time with her, and then I think she motions up to the moon.
He looks puzzled by that for just a minute, and then looks up and then kind of smiles, catching what you're saying. It's like, yes, I will. I will enjoy her company. And he gives you a nod, and he goes, I will be just outside. Just in case.
She does a little nod.
I wouldn't want Azara to get upset with me if we didn't make it back, especially with, he kind of smells again, he kind of looks a little bit snotty for a minute, he kind of looks around, and he goes, well, with whatever we bring them, I hope they enjoy it. And he smiles, and he turns, and he goes to walk outside. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So as he does, the door shuts. And I want you to roll another perception check for me.
Okay.
Just for fun, so I can play off the numbers a little bit.
Uh, 14 plus 2, so
Okay.
16.
That's good. Okay. As that happens, you know, you have this kind of this cheery demeanor, but you also have this sigh of relief because now you know at least you don't have to fool him for the time being. He's outside. But you've put on this, guys, and you're going to have to see it through. And as you take that breath, you feel eyes upon you. And you were starting to be comfortable. First, you know, it was Rook, and then it was Finn, and then it was Quill warming up to you and making you feel at home in the endless satire. And then it was Hector, but you don't know how you feel about that now. And as you look around, you see a few people have turned and are looking at you from the bar, and there's one booth of people that a younger person, a female, has kind of stopped and looked at you for a minute, and it's kind of a tough chick, you know. She didn't exactly move her gaze away when you looked over towards her. She just kind of looks at you for a minute and kind of gives you once up and down and goes back to her meal. You can hear some claws cracking and some exoskeleton being broke open and some chattering of dishes and things of that nature. And you're on your own in here for a little bit. And that's, we'll make of that as you will. Okay? She has not returned back with the food yet, and she has taken you to a table. And the table's kind of in the middle of everything. You kind of, it's a little awkward to sit at. You would prefer to be against a wall somewhere, but it's the one that you were offered, and the chair is still pulled out along with Finn's. What are you doing in this moment?
It's in a spot where like everybody can see her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if anybody is still looking at her, she kind of offers like a polite smile or like a little wave, and then sits down. And despite kind of the urge of wanting to relax, her shoulders are still kind of primed or whatever, where in the sense of like she's not doing what she really wants to do, which is more of like a type thing, but
Yeah.
it's still kind of holding that restriction of like, gotta put on a show, gotta gotta display a certain thing and not let it crack.
I'll let you do deception or performance. You choose.
Okay. So I rolled a 3.
Good deal.
But deception or performance are both charisma, so that's +3. And then I do have proficiency in that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So +2. And then I do have +1 from a skill for both of those. So that's 3 + 6. So 6, 8, 9.
Okay, that's what I figured in my head. Okay, 9. With a 9. As you sit down, and you gotta get lost in those thoughts that I was talking about with you briefly. You kind of lose track for a minute. And although you're able to keep up the illusion, if as it were, you catch yourself realizing that your postures are not of someone else. They are of Azara. Okay, although the look is there, you are... If someone were to know you well enough, they could possibly say, that person looks a little bit like Azara sitting over there. You know what I mean? There's that kind of air about this. So, as you're sitting there for a few minutes, the door opens back up again. And when it does, you can see Finn shoot you a look. A kind of a knowing look, and he nods at you. And he begins to walk off from outside. And as that happens, you see the person in the door now, and they turn around and they got a big grin on their face. And they brush back some long hair out of the side of their face. And they go, that smells about the exact same way it did last time I was in here. Mind if I sit down? And it is Rainlore. Rainlore Darkstride. Now, I don't know that you've ever seen Rainlore. Have you ever personally met him in game? I know Finn has, but I don't know if you have.
Is he the one that she encountered when they first were entering the city? Because I think there was one that, like, her sister and her, I think, ended up chatting about, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be. For the hell of it, roll me a history check. 15 or higher, and we're going to say, yeah, you've seen him about or something while you were putting up flyers or something of that nature. No, not quite. So, I'll go through descriptions again real quick. Now, I know that Jeremy did... Can you remember if she's actually even talked to him, or was it just Finn at this point?
I believe it was just Finn.
Okay. So here's what you see. Oh, wasn't he in the... Did he not come into the Endless Satire for just a minute at one point? No, because Danny got the bartender confused with him, but it wasn't. Okay. So here's what you see. A handsome, rugged-looking guy with, like, darker to olive, like, tan skin. Okay, not green, but just, Greek looking. Kind of that kind of look, Charming looking. Large brown eyes and just a smirk on his face. As soon as he begins to walk in, though, you automatically are kind of taken back because he seems quite feeble for looking as young as he does. His hair is long and dark, and it's a mess. And he wears a large black cloak over his back, and what he's using as a walking staff practically looks like a large, wicked-looking, like, devil-slaying lance. He has like a severe kind of limp to him as he makes his way across there, and he also has a large bow on his back that seems to be way too big for him. Okay? And he also has a chain that kind of hangs around his waist in different ways. And on the one side of that, you can see 3 skulls hanging as if the chain has been put through their eye sockets or through their nose holes and things and collected. And these, with that kind of roll, these don't look to be human or regular mortal looking skulls. Something seems to be off about them. Whether they're some kind of monster or cursed humanoid or some kind of creature, but they definitely don't seem to be like any skulls that you've seen in books or maybe even stumbled across in all your years of traveling and things of that nature. Okay? And who he looks like, of course, is Jason Momoa, the one that plays Aquaman. That's who would play him. And he has kind of that gruff kind of tone to himself, and he's kind of a kidder in a way, and in the way he kind of smiles and politely flirts as he's asking for the seat. What is your reply to this? As he makes his way over to your table using that lance.
And Finn came in and split off.
Well, when he opened up the door to let himself in, he kind of held the door open for a minute, and Finn gave you a nod.
Okay.
And walked away. And at that moment, he kind of turned his head towards you like soap opera style with that grin on his face and asked if he could have that seat since it was open.
I think she'll probably be like, yes, sure.
He comes across there and he takes the cloak off and he bounds it up and he puts it over top of his shoulder, and he has a strap and he pulls it up and he straps it down and he pulls it tight across his chest. And you can see he's a sturdy built guy. This feebleness is just weird. That's all I'll say, As he pulls the chair out and he sits down kind of slowly and he kind of looks at you and takes a deep breath in, he goes, I'd get something to drink here, but I don't know what they may be milked or drained to fill the cup up. So, what's everyone here seem to be having? I'm not trying to make mistakes this close to tomorrow.
I believe that I just asked for whatever she recommended, and I am trusting from there.
He kind of grins, and he looks at you for a minute and he goes, well, that's bound to be 2 different things possibly. One, it's guaranteed to be old, because it's probably something she's trying to get rid of. But number 2, it should be safe, because she's going to want you to come back. We'll double down on that. And he taps his finger twice on the bar and he kind of sits back and he kicks up his legs and his bootlegs up on the table and crosses his arms and just kind of looks around in his grin. And he kind of snuggles in and looks over at you. And he goes, I'll be honest. I was looking forward to the performance tonight. I have, in my cloak there, I have the flyer. It's excellent penmanship too, by the way. It looks presentable. It's more attention than most people give to things like that in this city. So, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. Not tonight, at least, anyway. Are you going to try to save face and put it on there tomorrow night, or you have plans in the future?
Well, I am not a performer myself. I just take care of the costumes. But I will certainly let, the creator of the flyers know your praise.
He smiles and interrupts you as you're doing this. And he smiles and he takes his feet down and he kind of puts his forearm up there and you can knock off the bullshit. I didn't come all this way to see somebody's cousin.
I am not sure I understand what you mean.
So that's what we're doing.
What are we doing?
Let's. I'll try to play along. He says. And he puts his hand back like that, and he kind of grins. And he looks around the room to see if anyone's staring. He gives it a long look. When you get a chance, and I have a feeling that you might, I'd like for you to tell Azara something for me. Could you do that?
Absolutely.
Good. Good deal. Whatever followed them here, it's not her fault. And we knew the second that the Netherfall opened, that we needed to have a conversation. You think she'd know what I'm talking about? He just kind of looks down.
I cannot recall her telling me any stories of another whatever, nor of things following.
Okay.
You seem quite confident in this knowledge.
Well, my heart's in it. And that's metaphorical and, unfortunately, a true statement, but we'll get to that later. Whew. You see, the problem is that whatever kind of deal, mess, or predicament that, what did it say? Circ Mystique on the flyer? Is that what the group calls themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they've walked into, well, you almost have to imagine that your family's problem has been someone else's problem for a long time, too. And we was hoping maybe we could help each other fix it. So when you see her, let her know that I've already let some of the people know at the guild here in town. The Darkwood Stalkers, or Darkwood Huntsmen. Here is the Ranger and Hunters Guild in the city, of which I am a high-seated member, because my name's Rainlore. My parents were kind of hippies.
She's never shared any meeting of somebody who has ever carried your description or quite the name. You seem quite familiar with her.
You ever read stories?
Yes.
Do you feel like you know those people?
I suppose.
That's how I know Azara.
She's a story character.
Until hopefully soon. There are some chapters left unwritten that we need to get together on, almost like a mingling of the minds, if you would. And he puts his feet back up on the table. And he crosses his arms again. He goes, "Man, I'm thirsty." He's kind of looking around. And he says, to be safe under the shadow of these pieces of shit that postponed the show that Azara is supposed to be a part of later. Or it should have already been over by now. Hell, it's late. He looks around. And he goes, it's not something that you're just going to find the sunny side of on your own. And those clouds cover a vast amount of property. We can help each other. But she's going to have to make a step towards us.
And you haven't talked to her father first. My uncle is apparently very well known. And seems more along your adventuring story type.
That is another passage. That is another path to it, I suppose. Well, anyway, I guess they're busy here, and he kind of pushes himself up from the table. And he kind of grunts a little bit, and he grabs that lance and he pulls it over to the side. And he says, we stay up late. We're up all the time, actually.
You
Come
didn't
see
answer
us.
my question.
He kind of looks at you curiously for a minute. He goes, I'm not sure I picked up on the question.
Out of your various storybooks, why her? Why not the one with a far more interesting and vast skill set?
That's something she's going to have to... You're going to have to ask your uncle. It's not for me to tell. When you're ready. And he whispers that very lowly. Very low. And he stands up and he walks out. And as that's happening, you hear, oh no, don't run. Why are you running off? I've just got back. And it's Leah. And he says, did you already run him? No, come on back. I'm just now starting to get ready and getting things prepared for you all. He looks over and he goes, it's all right, Leah, I'll come back. He says, I still have to pay my tab off to you, so I'm ill-equipped tonight. And he kind of holds his hand up and pats himself a couple times. And he raises a hand up. And he goes, but I will be back. She grins. She goes, oh, you... I can't be mad at you. I know you will. That's fine, she says, and she smiles. And as he walks out the door and closes it, there's this moment that passes where it's surreal for you. Like when he goes out the door, there's this moment inside of you that's kind of like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, he knew, right? He knew that I'm putting this on. How does he know her? What story? You know, there's questions here. And as Leah is talking to you for the first few moments, she's almost kind of like a background noise. And the first thing you hear that kind of snaps you back into it is, well, I suppose I'd be daydreaming too if I had two good-looking men just trying to sit at the same table with me this early in the morning. She goes, you probably have a lot on your mind.
I think like one of the key thoughts in her head especially too is she largely, I think, in the shadow of a lot of the personality of her family. And like, you know, she is kept hidden a lot most of the time outside of like some minor things.
Mhm.
Like even just doing the posters, that's like a quick in and out type thing. You're not really being like a face for them. It's more so like, hey, come see us, see you later.
Right on.
So to be seen in any capacity is uncomfortable, and she, I think, thinks of herself as fairly unremarkable, or more so like a hidden shame type thing. So the
Okay.
fact that it is more so of this person is apparently very interested in her story specifically,
Yeah.
which she didn't know was a thing in the first place. It's a weird feeling she's sitting with. And then just sheer embarrassment the minute she hears that come from Leah. Like it goes from like existential, like thinking to just like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what you're
That's
talking
awesome.
about.
That's cool, and that's how it should be, right?
Hmm.
So, you notice that in that moment of daydreaming and thinking about that kind of stuff and contemplating, and as you drifted off a little bit there, you could see it. There's a large sack that seems to be made of like a canopy material, almost as if it's supposed to be a cheap representation of like the stuff that a sail would be made of. Okay, and it has a rope handle that looks like the rope that would be wrapped around the handle of a ship and things like that for grip, you know. And there's a big, there's a painted image on the side of this bag. Actually, when you look at it a little closer, I'm going to say it's almost been branded onto this fabric, almost like a hot piece of metal had been put on here and put on this symbol. And it looks like a caricature image of Leah winking and smiling, and in her hand looks like there's this little creature that's blowing this awesome mystical smoke out of its nose. It's kind of wrapping around, and the smoke creates the letters Leah's rare and exquisite cuisine. Now I want you to roll a history check for me, and I'll let you know what that little animal is, or creature, or monster, or celestial being, or whatever it is.
If
You
the white rabbit
said-
will follow it.
You can do history, but if you want to roll something else and tell me why, I would be willing to listen to it. But you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to sell it.
So yes, history. And I am pulling up. So history, is intelligence. So I rolled a 11 plus 1, so 12, and I do have a +1 skill in that and proficiency, I think.
Okay.
So 12 plus 3, so 15.
Okay. I won't give you a whole bunch of details about the creature, but this is a Ki-rin. Okay, and it looks like a small version of what in her hand, just being etched out on the stamp. Kind of, you can only make so many details about it, but you recognize a couple things about it. One is it has long waving hair. It looks like a miniature type horse kind of deal, with like dragon like scaled images impressed on to what the side of it would be, and almost like a unicorn horn that sticks out of the head, with a mustache of long mane-like hair as well. And it's weird, and you recognize it as a Ki-rin. You've heard about him, you've made songs about him, but that seems to be what's on there. And as you're studying that bag for a minute, she goes, you look up and Leah's kind of, she's just smiling, looking at you and shaking her head. She goes, see, I knew you had class. You know what that is, don't you, child?
Yes, though little beyond just stories, I think.
I think it's time we made a story. And you got to tell me how you got both those guys at this table. She goes, just 1 minute, okay? And she turns around and she kind of waddles over, and she's kind of, being honest, she's sticking her rump out kind of proudly. She's kind of proud of herself in the way she's shaped, and she's sticking it out, and she's going over to the bar, and she reaches down, she says a couple things, and she reaches over comically far. Okay, where one of her feet come up. And as she comes back up, she comes back of a bottle. And she comes back of 2 shot glasses that her fingers are well down inside of. Because she has very little manners when it comes to this kind of thing. And she sits the 2 glasses down. Okay? And when she grabs that bottle and she sits it down, she goes, I would like to ask you something. And I want to be the first one to offer you. How can I'm trying to decide how to even put this in a way you'd understand it. My best foot forward, I think, is how maybe they would say it here. But anyway, you're not going to try anything like this ever again in your life. This is Ki-rin Rum, darling, and I'm going to tell you right now. Get ready. And she smiles really big, and she takes those shot glasses over there, and she pours a little bit in one. She looks at it and she kind of tucks her chin to her chest and she kind of looks at you and kind of, yeah, maybe a little more. And she goes just a little bit more like that and she looks at it and she goes and she moves it over across the table, kind of looking comically suspicious, and she pushes it over to you and she, try not to judge, honey. This is, my family makes this, so if my shot's a little bit bigger than yours, I hope you can understand. And she takes that bottle and she just kind of fills that shot glass up and recorks it and sits it over, and you can see the image of a Ki-rin has been etched in almost like old style calligraphy ink that's been faded on this label. This label looks like it's been sun bleached. This bottle looks thick enough where you could win a bar fight with it. It's a pretty impressive thing. And on the seal of it, where the seal's been broken, you can see where there's been a wax little image that looks just like the one that's on that bag that's been cracked in half to open this bottle. And then she takes that and she holds it up, and as if she's wanting you to hold yours up as well, like she's wanting to make a toast to you. What are you doing?
She does. She picks it up without hesitation, does like a little clink.
Here's to finding the truth from the stories of others. And she cheers you, and she takes that down, and she looks at you for a minute. Wham! I mean, she takes it super quick, and she sits it down, and she goes, woo! Ha ha! She kind of smells like cat. She goes, ooh! Now you go.
She does.
Okay, roll me a constitution, just a constitution check. Not a saving throw by any means. Just a check.
So,
Oh, shit.
I rolled a 4. and
Yes, you
Constitution's
did.
+2, so 6.
Okay. I'm going to tell you right now.
Mhm.
Forget smelling anything other than straight up rocket fuel for the next 10 seconds. Okay? Because this is like if Captain Morgan met Bacardi 151, met been aged and stuff, although there is a lot of spice and there are things that are very pleasant about this. Bam! Like you ever took a shot and you weren't prepared for it and went down the wrong pipe or something? And you're just kind of like trying to get your hair for a minute. That's what your 6 tells me. Okay? So you're there. Now what that 6 also tells me is you can't hold your composure real good when you do that either. So this shot affects you. Okay? Now, with that, I would like for you to do a deception or some other check to make sure you're able to keep up this said illusion. With disadvantage, because you just failed taking the shot and it affected you deeply.
Okay, first was a 5 and then was a 3.
Oh,
So
better.
deception, charisma, so +3, so 6 plus proficiency 2, 8 plus the skill 1, 9.
9. Okay. As that happens, you can feel your grip on what you have done loosen. Okay? And by no malintent, you don't believe on her end of it. You don't realize it's happened until she gives you a strange look, right? That would be a neat moment because it's happened. You've kind of taken this and you're like, you know, it's getting you, you know, and all of a sudden that kind of happens. And she looks at you and her face kind of goes kind of, what's the word I want to look for? Judgingly, okay? And as that happens, she takes that bottle and she starts pouring her another shot. She goes, oh, child, if that's how we're going to start this game, I'm going to need another shot. And she pours herself another shot as you look like Azara now. That guy's has dropped.
Which?
I would say the... Oh, shit, you know what? You're right. Witch. Oh, God.
Might
Oh,
be
God.
a
Jeremy, what to
D4
do?
roll. Might
Okay.
be a D4 roll to determine which of her previous personas she swaps
Okay, here we
to.
go. Here we go. Let's do this. Because, listen. Brass tacks, if she dropped her ability to do this, we got to almost convert it back to the original version of her, right? That's what we got to do. But I'm going to make this interesting. Okay? So I'm going to roll 1d20. This little metal fate-telling son of a gun right here in front of you. Okay? Now, I've got to give your base Dar Eblin form a 1 through 10. And I'm willing to give an 11 through 15 to the old man. And I'm willing to give 16 through 20 to Azara, the one that we all know and love, and I have, the actual daughter. Okay? So, this is important. Here we go.
All I can picture, and I can't remember what it's from, it's somebody who hiccups, and every time they hiccup, they change.
Yeah, I don't know what that's from, and I know what you're talking about. That's this. Okay, here we go. Belly, you look like you are just getting ready to throw up right now. You are so like Brian. You bastard. I hate to say it. Let's go. Okay. When she says this to you, and she takes that shot glass and she sits it down, roll a perception check for me, just for the help. Just basic. Tell me what you get.
15 plus 2,
That's good enough.
17.
That's good enough. When she holds that second shot up and takes it and sits it down, you look at the reflection in the shot glass. And you see a shock of white hair. And you just kind of stare at it for a minute. And she's already got the second shot down, and she's getting ready to ask her question. She thinks this is some part of some kind of... She doesn't realize why you're trying to describe yourself in this moment where you're kind of like, oh my God. You know what I mean? See, and that's a neat little scene in the movie, right? Like taking a shot, loses track of shit, transforms back into thing, and sees her reflection in the shot glass as it's put back down, and it's kind of like, oh no, right? But there's also this little bit of intuition from that perception. Her reaction to this doesn't appear to be sinister or straight up concerning as you had built it up to maybe it would have been in this moment, right? So that's something a flash that goes through your mind as you see that white hair silhouette in that shot glass reflection. What do you do, Bella?
She's not registering that yet.
Okay.
She's just in pure fight, flight mode currently.
Mm-hmm.
So she's I'm trying to think. You would say she has like a robe or shawl, right?
Yes.
Okay. So she's grabbing like a fistful of money like from her pocket, putting it down on the table, and just kind of throwing the robe or whatever on over her head type thing.
Okay.
And just a quick like, I'm so sorry, I have to go. And she leaves quickly, leaving the food, leaving everything, leaving however much money was on the table. Like she grabbed however much it was. She's bolting.
Oh, you didn't even take the bag of food with you?
She is not focusing on anything else, but I need to get out of here.
Okay. Well, the second that you do, and you get up, you can hear her saying things like you hear child and everything like this, and you can hear words, but it's not registering. And as you go for the door and you open it up, you see... Oh, Jesus. 9 people that are walking along the edge, almost like tourists, like they're looking out at the airships that are kind of just hovering and waving in the clouds and stuff like that over the banister and stuff like that, and the abruptness of which you've opened up the door and stuff like that. A few of them kind of turn back and kind of look at you, and you hear a little whisper. What's that? Is everything okay? What's going on? Is that Leah's? Who is that? I wonder if they didn't pay. You know, you hear things, and you're kind of in this perpetual kind of spiral now, where you don't know if you're drawing more attention to yourself than you should have, or if you need to fight or flight more. I will leave it to you to decide what you're doing as you get out to that patio, or out to the main level of Skywatch.
She is running for anywhere to hide and hyperventilating as she's doing so. She is not registering about anything deeper than I need to hide right now.
Okay, so do you want to do a check to see if there's anything you can hide amongst? Or are you wanting to go to a specific place? You get my question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This has got to be very interesting for just a dinner thing. And that's cool. I'm glad it is. That's really neat. Okay. So what are you thinking here?
There were dark alleys at one point where she initially hid and dipped from Rook, right?
Yes.
She's trying to run for there because all the shopkeeps would have been gone by this point. So.
All right. You roll me an athletics check or an acrobatics check. I'll let you decide.
Okay, 15 plus acrobatics. So Dex plus 3, 18 with proficiency plus 2, dirty 20.
You run by. Okay. And you're going by people. You run past the crow's nest and you scatter coins from underneath your feet in haste, but you're moving in the right direction. You go by the podium that had your flyers on there. You see actually a few of them on the ground along with a couple others, as some have been taken down and new ones have been putting back up. Some have been putting back up. Just for flavor, I'll say you maybe even would go by a person that's sitting there talking on a railing. It's like, I didn't really want to see the show anyway. It's a damn shame things like that happen, but I made plans for this. And you can see somebody ripping up one of the flyers in half and letting it fly as you're trying to cover yourself and make your way and stuff. You're like, damn, that's me. Whoops. You know what I mean? There's things you're encountering along the way. I'm going to roll... nope. Jeremy's going to roll 1d20. One is you're able to find that thing without incident. Well, and 20 is there's going to be something thrown in the way. We're going to scale it, as we always do when we travel through the town. Okay, but for now you're trying to run that direction, and he's cursed. So now it's bad news.
6.
That's good. That's on the good side of things, right? No, that's the bad side, because 1 is bad, 20 is good. That's what we decided, right? When we're doing these rolls.
I thought you said 1, she found it fairly easily, and 20, there was complications.
In this instance, you're right, I did say that. So we'll stick with that. But normally, it's the other way around. So you got lucky. That was my fault. That was my fault completely. And build them up and bring them down is terrible. With a 6, I will go ahead and say that you encountering those people as you bump into them briefly, trying to get through to the alley, of that guy actually pulling down one of your flyers off one of the side alley walls and ripping it up, upset because he had made plans to go to that show. That's going to be a bad encounter. Okay. And as you go down into that alleyway, and you think you're alone, and you look around, you don't see anything. I need you to do me one last perception check, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit of stuff.
That's a nat 20.
Okay.
and then add in the perception stuff, which is just
No,
2.
that's that you don't need any. You're fine. As you're down there, you see a raven perched up on the top side of the building that you're beside. You actually went down an alley beside a place called Big Gun Dabbleduns, ornaments and equipment for the skies. You'll want to write that down probably. That's important. Big Gun Dabbledun. Armaments like like weapons and armor and stuff, and equipment for the skies. It seems to be a large building that has its own. At the end of the alley, it looks out into more open space, as the backside of this alley seems to have its own dock, an airship dock along the back of it. And you've crept down between an alley and that, and you see a raven roosted on the very top roof of that thing, and it has a flash in its eye, and it's looking down at you, and it calls out, kind of a loud shrieking call, as they do, and then it calls out a second time, and it twitches its head a few times and looks up, and then takes off flying and heads into the skies and is gone. And now is the only time you truly feel like you're alone. The only sounds that you can hear in this alley, now we're going to say it's like 1 a.m., are the sounds of people working and taking stuff off the ships and docks in the background of this place. And you can hear this eccentric voice, kind of like really low on the wind, saying like, if I've told you once, I've told you 100 times. We do not simply put these things in these places. These all have reasons. These things corrode. These things have shelf lives. We need to be using our minds when we're trying to do these things. So if you could, for the love of God, just remember that you are gnomes, you have been hired to do a specific job, and I would require that you begin to act like you have your heads out of your asses immediately. And you're hearing this whole dictation. It sounds like John Malkovich. And you're hearing this echoing as if there is some bossy gnome just giving people all kinds of shit and shade on these docks around the back of this. But they are paying no attention to you whatsoever. What are you doing, whoever you are? If you need a moment, do you want a moment to think about it so we can refill our cups, or are you ready to rock and roll?
It's a quick thing. She's just steadying her breathing and trying to gain control again to then go back to Aluna.
Okay. Once you regain that control, where would Aluna like to go from here?
I had an idea for something initially, but now that's sort of been evaporated.
But that's the thing, and I want you to know, I'm not trying to mean, because all this, it'd been nice if we could do the D&D. It's like, hey, you all appear at the Hunters Guild, and you all appear here, but that's not how D&D works. This is a fun. So you can go wherever you want.
Well, the Hunters Guild thing is what. Oh my God, what was his name again?
Rainlore. Remember, he said his parents were hippies.
Yeah. That's where he said that they were, right?
That's where he wanted to have you come, because everything had happened, kind of. And he really wanted Azara, wink, wink, nod, nod, the way he was saying it, to make her way there, because you guys could have mutually helped each other with this problem that you've had. Did he make that clear? Yeah. Like, I know that it was hard to kind of dialogue that, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So the initial thought for her was...
I'm curious now.
that I don't know, maybe she got like a little bit of like a buzz or something, got a little bit emboldened, and she was gonna go to Finn and be like, I needed to escort my cousin somewhere, but we're gonna drop off this food real quick and then we'll go. But obviously,
Yeah. You
so
didn't see Finn as you were booking it out there and trying to be incognito. You did not see Finn, but you weren't really looking at hard either.
yeah, I think she's pretty much shaken up at her core right now. So any um comfort or any sort of bold that she would have had is sort of evaporated.
Hmm.
So she's just gonna make her way back to the caravan and just kind of curl up, and try to hide away from everything and go to bed.
Okay. All right. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. We'll discuss a few things, how we're going to move this forward. Um, and we will return in a few minutes. So make sure to get ready to pause this right. Do this the right way. I got pause here. I got pause here. 3, 2, 1. And break time. And we're back! I just wanted to do that. It's a skit on Saturday Night Live I saw one time. It was really, really funny. If you've ever seen it, Ben Affleck is a radio DJ. It's good stuff. But anyway, some of Ben's finest work besides Jersey Girl, which we know is everybody's real favorite, right? No, not so much. So anyway, sorry, Ben. Movie was terrible.
Oh no, I was a pretty big fan of Jamie Foxx's character.
Okay, true. I guess that works, right? Yeah, there was endearing parts about it. We can't have the best every time we see something. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to make them. You got to make them mediocre. Wasn't George Carlin in that one too?
I think so.
Yeah, George was a hot point. It was good.
Can't remember for the life of me what he named that character. She was funny.
I don't know. Anyway, moving forward because we're like right in the middle of like a game and stuff. We'll do our movie critic review on some other channel. Let's just do this now. Yeah, right on. All right, so Azara's character has decided to go and take refuge back at the caravan. Uh, so I need to go through a bit of that first to show everybody, what she's going to run into there, what she may have obstacle-wise to deal with as she does this. And then we're going to get into you two as we get to the bottom of the long and twisting stairwell that leads up the side of the mountain to the Sanctuary of Wrath. So I'll put you guys at the ground level, kicking and running, and you can tell me where you're headed from there. So start to think about, what you want to look forward to, interaction you want to have. If you want to message each other back and forth, do it. Just get an idea. Okay, guys? All right. So, moving on with our star attraction of the night here for just a little bit. By the way, you all can't see it, but she's smiling from that one. It's all good. That's the goal. Smiles. You make your way out of the alley. And the long distant laughter and the sarcasm of gnomes trying to work together for a common goal seems to just kind of get further and further away. And I would like to know, tell me the overall physicality of the way you're trying to get back there. Have you turned into or taken on any one of those personas? Are you moving stealthily? Are you moving striding and confidently, straight line for that place down Skywell and through the city again? Or are you trying to duck from alley to alley, trying to figure out? I mean, just give me an idea and a picture as to the way you're getting from A to B. Does that make sense?
Now that I think about it, I had initially said of like, oh, she would go back to Aluna, but I don't think she would, as I think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, because she does just want to disappear. And if she were to go back to Aluna, she could easily run into Finn potentially,
That's
and
true.
be recognized. So, and she doesn't want to be recognized. So she, um, takes on just like another form, like a random crowd member from cities ago, a very average looking person, um, and trying to be as in the shadows and as out of the way as much as possible. Not like in a I'm being a sneaky rogue type way, but in a I just want to blend and disappear into the mist kind of way.
Okay. So I'll just take you through a reverse tour for some things
Mhm,
that might trigger something, that might not. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Because sometimes a person just wants to get through the city. So not everything has to be a knockout, drag out, crawl through every layer of stuff. Okay.
mhm.
We do that enough already. And it's fun. And I'll continue to do it. So there you go.
And
Um,
if it helps at all to like the posture, it's like I think it is probably more of like a middle age type woman or something.
okay.
And then she's presenting as like very tired, where like it would look like maybe somebody who got off work and is just wanting to get home. Um, but not like a high energy persona where like if she bumps into somebody, she has to be like, "Hi, how's it going?" type thing.
I'm going to roll
Hmm.
a DC for Skywell. And you are going to tell me which one of your abilities you want to roll counter to that to make sure you're able to overcome whatever my DC might be for an obstacle. Now,
Okay.
you can do it for stealth, you can do it for persuasion, you can do it for whatever. You might be able to talk your way out of something, you might be able to sneak away. You just give me an idea and tell me. And okay, for Skywell,
Hmm.
pick one and roll it and tell me what you get.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with stealth,
Okay.
and I rolled a 14. 14 plus 3 for dex, so 17 plus 2 for proficiency, 19.
That does it. DC was 16.
Hmm.
I rolled kind of high on that one. So I'll paint you this picture now that I know what's going on, right? So as you were going down that spiral stairway, you come to one of the platforms where Miyasha performs. And you can't help but kind of dwell on the fact it's like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose track of who knows me how. I'm used to going to a place, performing, moving on, and the roles that you play in these performances, these tales of Ulran, right, are already written. You already know what they're going to be. And you're starting to have a little bit of concern about stretching yourself a little bit too thin, being able to keep track of everything. You take a deep breath and you continue on, and you hear a voice. And it's like the first voice doesn't sound familiar, but the second one does. You hear a voice say, "Well, if you don't think they'll come back to here, then why are we up here wasting our time on this? Boss wants to know where she's at, and why you haven't given him a fur pelt by now." You hear another deeper voice, and this one's familiar. It's like, this one says, trying to remember how to do this. I don't think she'd be foolish enough to come back here. Not after everything that happened. And she seemed to have some fucking friends with her of some type. Not quite sure if we don't need to pay them a visit at some point on down the road.
No clue why, but the hairs on Rook's neck are standing up.
You recognize this is the sound of that bounty hunting bugbear, big bastard that had that grappling shit that was there. And they are going around, and he seems to be kicking some coins that Miyasha has carelessly left behind. Maybe she left in haste. And they're walking around kind of looking at that area she was at. as he's got his hands on the railing, looking over into the large opening expanse that goes downward. And he's running his finger over top of that crack that he made in that stone railing with his hook as he went through. And as he does that, he grabs his shoulder and holds it and he goes, I suppose I could probably pay them a visit. Did the boss say what kind of pelt he wanted? Or could it be to my liking? You hear the younger one, the other one, the smaller one. Now that you look around, it seems to be some kind of goblinoid with nasty matted black hair, and it seems to have some kind of the smell of piss is wafting over that direction. He seems to be just a nasty thing. Seems to have a pack on his back that's at a very odd angle. It's kind of big and it's up, and you hear these bottles and glass things clinking around in it. And he is a disgusting creature. When he speaks, there's drool, and it's part of the speech that he says things, but he seems to be very wickedly clever. He goes, I suppose we could change it into whatever we needed to. I don't think he's going to be that bright in a thing. Money's money. And if we can get money and we can give him what he needs, I suppose any hide would do. And he giggles at the prospect of that. All of a sudden, the large one, he goes, he goes to look around. This is where your stealth comes into play. Okay? So as that happens, you see a couple that are coming up the opposite way. They seem to be older folks. Looks to be a cleric of some kind that is maybe escorting a younger woman somewhere, and he seems to be consoling her with some kind of prayer. The cleric, I'm going to say, is a much older dwarf with long white and silver braids in hair, and seems to have not armor on. It seems to be he's not a warrior of any type. He just seems to be the more holy of a type. And he's talking this young human woman through philosophy. I almost said that. Of the philosophy of his religion and how that might help her. She seems to be some kind of commoner worker and things of this nature. And as that's going on, and you see that, okay, you happen to know that this thing is going to have he's going to be able to pick up on sense. And in the description of the spell that you use to change your appearance, does it also mask your natural smell, or is it just your physical appearance? Jeremy, do you know this? Because I don't.
Not off the top of my head. Was it a spell or just a...
Like, just for the hell of it, what is the ability that you use to look from like one person to another?
Well, she has the kind of disguised self mask, the one that's sort of that hand-me-down from the mother.
Which makes it extremely useful for you to use, but still has the limitations of the spell. Mm-hmm. We've made it where it's kind of like something you can just kind of whip off and do. Okay, I like that. Jeremy, on that, let me know if that also masks smell and things.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it does.
Okay. So in a quick moment of thinking, you would see that this woman that he is consoling has a bottle of wine that she is holding to her side. And as you brush by and you look at that, you know the strong smell of that wine would probably mask what's going on with you. Okay? So in that moment, it doesn't specify.
Well, it says you can't change your body type, so you must adopt a form that has the same basic arrangement of limbs. Otherwise, the extent of the illusion is up to you.
Okay.
So you can seem 1 foot taller, shorter, you can appear thin, fat, in between. Okay. You can augment a lot of stuff with it, as long as you're not trying to give yourself, 2 extra legs or anything like that. Otherwise, the illusion's up to you. It just doesn't hold up to physical inspection.
So, Bella, you're able to, with that stealth, to stay out of the range of these two as they're doing this thing. I rolled a really, really high roll, unfortunately, on what would happen on this. So, I'm going to let you decide how you want to tell me that you're going to mask possibly the smell You see this bottle of wine that she has there. You see this old man cleric. You could come up with something random. What is it you would want to do in that moment to disguise possibly and potentially your smell as you see him start to look up towards the air a bit? Is there anything you have on your person? Is there any kind of idea or concept?
So, the weapon I have for her listed is the chakrams.
Correct.
Because I think we were talking about changing that, but I never kind of did. The
Okay.
chakrams could be sort of like loose and hang down and drag, right?
Yes. And what's neat about chakrams, keep in mind, they can look so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of room there for interpretation. But yes, they do, yes.
So what she'll probably do is kind of have them like loose and sort of drag on the ground a little bit, and then the minute that the girl and the cleric comes by, kind of pull it back quickly as fast as she can, so then it trips up the girl or the cleric or them to cause the bottle to drop.
Awesome. Okay.
So it looks like more accidental stumbling than her like grabbing and smashing something.
Okay. Roll an attack roll or a sleight of hand check, whenever you want to roll.
Okay.
Natural 1, huh? Alright. Oh, I love it. So, I'm not going to make the stealth check for nothing. You passed it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me describe to you how this works. So, you're thinking about doing this, and you're walking up, and the second that you drop this chakram to start dragging, you notice that it makes a metal sound, a clinking sound, that automatically draws attention to you. You get so nervous from this that when you jerk the thing up off the ground in a quick response to stop making that noise that's drawing right towards you as you're closing on these people, the thing shoots forward and goes around you, bounces off the side wall of this place, and goes into there and smacks that bottle of wine. Okay? Now as it does, it falls and glass shatters and stuff, and the woman raises her hand up and she looks at you, and she goes, "Why? What?" And she says like that, and then the old cleric looks straight at you, and he looks to her, and he puts himself between the girl and you, and he says, "Can I help you? Are you all right?" And he peers in and goes to look at you a little closer, and you can see that the younger one of the two, this little nasty goblinoid-like creature, is starting to take an interest and is looking at you guys. It's kind of nibbing around and looking. There's wine over the sidewall, shards of glass and stuff. What are you saying?
I am just so sorry. I don't know what the deal is. You see, like my son, he gave me this thing and it just fell. I'm not a fighter. I don't know how to do this. He gave it to me to hold, and I don't know what happened. I'm just so sorry. I think I have. How much was the wine? I could give you the money for the wine. It's been a long day.
Okay. With advantage because of the good of performance.
Mm.
Roll me a deception check, please.
Let's see. You said with advantage?
I did.
Alright. Deception. So rolled a 10, charisma plus 3, proficiency plus 5, so 15 with the skill plus, so 16.
16 will do it. Okay. With that, he says, "Well, good heavens." And he stops over and he looks at that thing and goes, "This is a very dangerous instrument of destruction. You should be more careful with this moving forward next time. I'm so sorry, Lana. I'm so sorry. Just give us just one moment here." And he goes over and he starts wrapping that chain up around it to it, and he hands it in. As you're going to get this money, and you're just telling him all this stuff, he goes, there's no need for that, young one. But if you find yourself in peril or having problems and carrying other people's burdens for them, don't hesitate to stop by the church, the local one in town. I'll be there. I am under the symbol of the Thunder Axe, and you will see our doors are open early, especially this time of year with the festivals going on the way they are. Don't think another thing of it. And he comes in, he whispers a little carefully, goes, she really didn't need it anyway. And when you look up and you can see the dark rings underneath of her eyes and things, you realize that he is consoling someone that is an alcoholic. He is almost being like a counselor for this person. That's what he was in the middle of doing, was counseling her as she just had that bottle at her side. And you have somehow divinely intervened in this moment by accident and has led to this. So with that, we will go ahead and move the situation on forward as the goblinoid sees this act of decency and stuff, and he kind of is like, "Ugh." And he goes back over to the railing talking to the other one about coin and things of that nature. The show of faith and being nice kind of disgusted him, so he didn't want to be a part of it. Okay? Last one. Sorry, as that one was a tough one. You get all the way down past Skywell. And do you remember the last words that Miyasha had with you? I think they were pretty decent ones. Like, she asked you guys to come by for the performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of captivated Rook.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that, but I don't think you spoke to her since then, did you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Alright. So, as you get down to the base of Skywell, and as we always say, you know, there are two guards there that have the helmets on that make them look like falcons or hawks of some kind of bird of that nature, or falcon. And they have the long cloaks pulled across them because it's nighttime, and they have their large pole arms and things of that nature. You walk in between them as they both kind of just turn their helmets, and you can't see their eyes through the eye slits, but you can feel their gaze upon you as you just kind of make your way and walk between them and head in towards the main circle of the lower level of town, making your way over to the caravans. Okay? As you do that, there are several businesses that have their lights on low, some lanterns glowing in windows. Some people and merchants actually sleeping in wrapped up bundles and stuff underneath of their tables on the sides of the streets, just because it's so populated and packed here, people couldn't get rooms. You know what I mean? Jeremy looks like a mind zombie. You literally look like your brain is exposed and your face is silly putty. It is distracting. I cannot help it. It is hilarious. It looks like your shirt is like drawn on a graphics designer, like it's one of those programs where you put your picture in and it draws you. That's what it looked like, didn't it? So, let me tell you, the ghost is trying to up its game. It's like, if you're not going to fucking pay attention to me, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to make from here up look like a static brain, silly putty, and a drawn shirt. That's all I'm saying. Bravo, Ghost.
That was NFT quality.
What's NFT? I'm sorry.
It's a thing where pictures are worth money, and I never got into it.
Okay, I was like, I'm old. I don't know what you mean. Okay.
That's a whole.
That's another thing. So, shit. So as you're walking that direction, you pass the Endless Satire, and you can hear Quill's voice booming out into the street a little bit as the front doors open, braced open, because it had gotten very hot in there from all the people earlier on. You can actually smell the food and the wine and the booze coming through the doorway. And you can hear him saying just a few private jokes to people along the bar in that Robin Williams-like tone and stuff, and people just bursting out laughing as he's cleaning up, and you can hear some glasses clinking together and the normal sounds of chairs scooting against stone and wood and things of that nature. As that happens, you go past there. Unless you have any interest in it, I'll move on. As you are still continuing forward,
Does she pass Ivron's shop?
That's what I'm getting to right now.
Cute.
I'm getting ready to roll to see what the... Yeah. With a natural 20. Huh. That's interesting. That's got to be a good thing. You were headed home. Even though you don't really know what you would call home. Just the idea of home, right? And you've met people and you've got to know some folks and taken some interest in some different things. And then as you go by that place, you hear a sound. And you almost don't even look up. Because you're like, I can't think about that now. You know what I mean? And then you hear like this sound. And as you look around, you can see on the banister going up, that twists this a little bit, that goes up to the front patio of this shop. You can see that on the two front stone railings, there are two little carved statues. One is of one of these Dawnscape sneakers. Okay? And it looks like it's holding a position almost like a squirrel that would be holding something in a certain way. And the other one is alive on the other banister. And it's looking right at you and its head sideways. And it's looking at you. It twerks its head and jumps down, and that tail flips up, and you can see the extra legs and the fur of the creature. And as it lands on their steps and starts bouncing and hopping up and goes in, it sneaks in through an open door. And as you look to the door, you can see in the distance something moving rapidly. But you're not quite sure what it is. Do you investigate it all, or do you keep your head down and continue on your path?
It was the face sneaker that she's been interacting with, right?
Yep. Seems to be.
So, yeah, that's, I think, one thing she may have been sort of seeking as maybe like a little glimmer of comfort of like the thing about sort of animals. It's like they don't have the same danger as much all the time that people do. So I think she was looking for that comfort. So she's trying to hang on to maybe a little hope, a shred of comfort, and she does kind of peek in after it.
Okay. As you walk up that short little piece of steps that's finely crafted in elven craftsmanship, because that's what Netherfall does, as he's explained to you. They make elven, authentic elven stuff so the people here can have that bit of taste of comfort of home if they so need it in the city. And as you go in there, and you can see fireplace light kind of bouncing around and dancing and lighting up the different pieces of the room, and it's really awesome inside there. As you remember, some of the woodwork is made to look like actual living trees that make up the braces of the place, and there's a lot of different bronze and different stained glass work that goes on in there, and there's lots of projects and crafts that are over. It's a really great place. It's almost like when you go into a Cracker Barrel restaurant, how the entranceway is for old people. That's what this place is like for elves, okay? That's what we're saying. Thanks, Cracker Barrel. So, in that, when you look in there for a minute and you're looking through the door and you know you saw movement, all of a sudden there's another flash of a person. And as you watch in somewhat semi-amazement, you see Iveron. Okay? He has a white vest that is undone. It is like an undershirt that he would wear while he was doing work. And there are leather arms and things that he would normally have on that would take the blunt of the sparks and the different grinding and things that happen. And it's laying over a chair in the distance. And he has this large lance. It looks amazing. This is not your average weapon. This thing glimmers and has curvatures to it that you wouldn't even know were possible with metallurgy. And as he wields this thing back and forth in this place, he's practicing by himself with this large, like lance-like weapon, like spear-like weapon. And he is amazing at it. It's almost like watching someone do a kata. It's almost akin to, in, you ever watched a Karate Kid Part 2 where he watches her do the tea ceremony? And he's like, how intricately and well she does this kind of thing. It's that kind of moment. And he doesn't even notice you. At one point you think maybe he even would have looked over at you, but it moves past you as he's wielding this thing and spinning this thing around. It's mesmerizing to a degree. Okay? Roll a charisma check.
Uh, 4 plus 3, 7.
Okay. You are
She's
taken by this.
She's acutely aware of the fact that she's currently presenting as a middle-aged woman.
Okay. You are. And you are taken by this. And in that moment, you hear like a loud and a whistle. And it's that face sneaker. And it's curled up between your feet, looking through the doorway at him with you. And the second that thing calls out and makes that little squeak sound, stuff like that, he stops and he turns. And that red hair kind of whips around and he looks at you. He looks sternly at the doorway and he sees somebody he doesn't recognize. And he goes, "We are closed. It can wait till morning." God. I apologize. Do we have something of yours? And he takes and he sits the thing down and he goes over and he kind of turns his back in shame because he didn't want to show his bare chest, and he's putting the leather arms back on and stuff, and he's getting ready to come up to the door. The sneaker is looking up at you, just like looking at you, and his tail is twirled around your leg a little bit. It's just mocking you practically right now. What are you doing?
Oh, hey, sorry, I got a little distracted with the friend, the animal guy. Great work over there. I gotta go. Don't worry, you don't have any of my stuff. I'll be out of here. Bye. And then she's quickly like turning around and leaving.
Okay. He goes, Do we have business? And the Fey sneaker goes up and bounds over and bounces up and grabs onto his chest and climbs up on his shoulder and starts squeaking and like nibbling at his ear. He's like, "Stop it! What do you do? What?" And he looks over at you and he goes, "Ma'am?"
It's I was checking out the sights in the town on my way home from the work, and don't worry about it. It's fine.
Oh, okay. We open at 7. So if there's something you need, we'll be here then, okay?
You got it, my guy. And then finger guns, and she's like,
okay,
leaving as quickly as she can.
Okay. And with that, you continue your way to the caravan. Okay. When you get to the caravan, no merchants are hanging out and sleeping in this, even the other performers and stuff, because of what happened earlier on in the day. The sense of danger is still there and present to a degree, as now you're seeing guards that are making rotations and walking around down through the old amphitheater, up and down the stairs. And you may even see that one detective mage from earlier that Danish character Finn spoke to. Let me see. Let me roll for the chance maybe he's there doing some things. he is, but he's alone. And he is not in his normal garb. He is there in his normal dress. You recognize him as the one to help put up the barricade wall and the one that gave that summons to Finn for the group. You know who I'm talking about? Had kind of a high-pitched voice. He is there and he's investigating, and he seems to have found maybe the remnants of some dust or a dead spider or something on the ground, and he's looking up at it, and he puts it into a glass container and recorks it, and he's just kind of looking around, and he looks up and gives you a long once over just one time. He narrows his eyes, and he just continues about his business. The caravan seems to have one very soft glowing light on. You know that your family does not go to bed early, but it seems like everything has been packed up that they had out for the performance, and all those pieces have been folded up and stowed away. And you know this because a lot of them are attached to the roof and the sides of the actual 2 caravans that you have. One is usually for the 3 of you, and one is for Hector. Okay? The siblings, their light is on, and you can hear violin music coming from the one, and there is conversation, and you know usually when that happens, drinking's involved of some degree. Okay? And then the other one with Hector, the doors are shut, the blinds are pulled down, but you can see the warm glow through them, that there is some kind of light on inside of Hector's caravan as well. But it seems to be that lower one that he usually has on when he's just studying or looking through things. Those are your options. What is it that you're doing?
She's going to go to Hector's and kind of do a sort of family knock that they do. That sort of indicates that it's her.
As you do that, there's a hesitation. And then you can feel the shift. Like someone's getting up inside there. And then as it walks over, the door cracks open, and there's a look, and he looks out at you. His hair is down. He's in the middle of preparing it to rebraid it and prepare it for tomorrow's show. And he has his own ritual that he goes through, but the hair is down in these long black streaks. And he says, at first he kind of looks down. And he looks back up and meets your eyes. He says, I was concerned that you would not come back tonight. I am glad you are here and that you are safe. And I can see you are full of surprises for anyone that would be possibly looking for you. And he sees the form you have on right now. Are you not smiling in return? Are you not being your pleasant self here?
I think she's kind of more so like, there was a small incident and an interaction I need to tell you about. And I was going to wait till the morning, but I know I should tell you now. Can I come in?
I don't know what you think has changed between us, Azara, but do not ask if you could come into your own home. And he opens up the door. And he just kind of looks at you, a little hurt, and he opens up the door to let you in. With that, I'll pause you there. And we're going to move over to these two, okay? Ha ha! Bum bum bum! Yeah, okay. So, you two strapping young lads have gotten down to the bottom of the steps. And you're glad it was downhill, because uphill would have been shit. It's getting late, about 1:30, almost 2 a.m. What's the conversation? Where are you guys headed and what are you doing?
What do you think we'll run into when we meet the
Darkwood Huntsmen.
By their name, I would say some Darkwood Huntsmen.
Smart. It's a good play.
It's a fair assumption. You think it's going to be a bunch of monster hunters and things of that sort? Or do you think they'll actually have more dabbling in our situation? I don't feel like many would know enough to deal with what we have to look at.
Well, if it's not all of them, it's definitely those two that fought with us. Because they seem to know a two or yeah,
A thing or two.
yes, a thing or two more than we do.
Breathe, my friend. We have time.
Yeah, dude, and listen, it's okay. It's all good. Dude, when you're trying to portray a character and do that shit, it's fine. I knew exactly what you meant, buddy.
Can't say I'm a fan of this resurgence that we're seeing of this Netherfall energy. For better or for worse, I'd just rather it be gone.
Well, we definitely have different opinions about that. So I, for one, would like to learn more about it, and not just have it disappear. So whatever it is, it supposedly knocked me out of my own time.
I could just still be sore from the fact that it tried to kill me.
With that moment, as you guys are discussing this, a familiar person walks by, and it's Finn. And Finn walks past and stops and looks at the two of you, and he says, He goes, so how did everything go? Wherever this leads.
About as good as you could expect. Tea, hallucinations. He almost died,
Well, it would seem you all are. Adventure finds you, I guess, are the words that I'm looking for.
Believe me, that's not as glorious as it sounds.
I can understand.
I'm not sure if it's danger more than an adventure.
He looks and he goes, Azara, I'm sorry. He corrects himself. A cousin of Azara, a representative of the family, someone I was not familiar with, had been here. Was gathering food. I believe she has stayed back behind at the caravan where the battle ensued earlier today. He goes, and I've met a very interesting person for the second time, so it's not just by chance any longer. He goes, this person seems to have connections to a guild of rangers and watchers called the Darkwood Stalkers of Hammelspire. And he has told me a few things. So tell me, how often do you all walk the thin line between the darkness and the grayness of this time in Rome?
More than I care to.
Insight check. Rolled a 9 total. So it really doesn't matter. So, what's the odor you're putting off here, bud, when you say that? Just as it comes across, right? Just like, don't care to. Okay. And he looks over and gives you a long look, Arsin. He says, Do you plan to meet with this guild to see if there's any mutual benefit from at least speaking with them? Is it fair to say, is that our plan? And he kind of says it with like a question mark at the end of it, as he looks at the two of you and he goes, "For I am without duty or burden, or even truly a purpose, if it is not to embark on at least some part of who and what it is I am. So I feel obligated to share just one simple thing with the both of you now that I've been given information about you from this Rainlore individual." He says, "I am an arcane blade." You both can roll a history check for that. From what you get.
That's a 6.
Yep, what'd you get?
10.
Okay. You don't know shit about arcane blades, Rook. Sounds fancy. Sounds like magic and a blade. You, with your exact 10, seem to know that arcane blades are the elves' answer to trying to set the world on its own safe course. As if the streams of the world were passageways through the waters to find their way to and fro and all around and to reach everywhere they possibly can. An arcane blade would be the one that was a guide on the ship, sailing those waters. They act as diplomats, emissaries, and more importantly, life-sworn guardians for people that wish to make a true difference in the world. For the important stuff. They get assigned arcane blades. And if that's what he is, at this point, from what you're looking at, as a lunesty elf, with a little bit of pale blueness to his skin and stuff like that, that seems to be something rare. You wouldn't see very often, Arsin. Okay? So, he says, in the time of no war, finding a purpose is not the easiest thing for one of my kind. And he looks over his shoulder, like back in the direction maybe where the caravans would be. And he says, so I have sought my own path and my own purpose, and I think maybe we see these Darkwood stalkers. And I think maybe we work together. What do you think? I'm asking both of you.
They sure know, at least mine and Rook's situation. So, at least they call themselves the Huntsmen when they introduced them to us.
Okay. Rook, you say anything?
I'd rather guess that stalkers and hunters might just be two different sects of the same organization.
I believe it might be in our best interest, in the interest of Azara, to find out if they intervened and had anything to do with, and what I now know you did. And thank you both for that, by the way. I didn't see the full picture of what occurred earlier today, but Rainlore has put it into perspective for me. If we can help them and they can help us in some way. Strangely enough, I have my own reasons for wanting to converse with them and find answers to my own questions. It would seem you both need answers from them as well, if they can traverse this Netherfall freely. As he hesitates on his word, as to not be offensive to either one of you. Okay? He's all about being, he says, and however, Azara plays into this. I do not see that thread particularly yet, but I cannot help but feel that this is the task that one of my kind should see through. And so I will. Do you plan to go there tonight? As we are summoned, and he takes out that scroll in the morning, as I have yet to properly go through this. The night has been full of strange occurrences. He kind of chuckles at that and looks at the two of you.
Well, no sense of sleeping anytime soon. I'm sure they'll just get more interesting. I do hope Azara as well. Given the fact that there's that Spyder roaming around.
He goes,
much like the way he conversed.
He says, I asked around, and every time I mentioned word of that person, I was either kicked out, given horribly disturbing looks at, or plain out ignored. So whoever this individual is, obviously people don't want to speak about them very much, which is either a very good thing for us or a very bad thing for us that he chooses to speak to us. I cannot be certain. Before we go to confront these huntsmen and find out how we can mutually benefit one another, have you seen Azara, and do you believe we should take her with us?
It's been a moment since
We've been stuck on these stairs. Yeah. We've been stuck in the temple.
And what were you saying, Rook? I'm sorry.
It's been a moment since we've seen her.
He thinks about it for a minute. I'm gonna roll 1d20. A 1 through 10. He's going to suggest that we go and get her to bring her along in part of this, because she is part of this. Or at least she is the part of whatever's going on that we have interacted with. We have talked to her. She has talked to us. We are friendly. We should do this together. And 11 through 20, and he's going to suggest that maybe leave her be for the night. Okay?
Arsin was gonna say that we should go get her, because her family was ones that were made a target for that attack.
Okay, roll a persuasion check.
Would you do it as advantage? Because I'd probably have suggested the same.
Okay.
It's a little different, but yeah. Not by much.
What's advantage? What am I doing here?
You're rolling a persuasion check with advantage.
Okay.
What is it?
Doing full math here.
A
15.
19?
15. Oh.
15. 15, okay. So what that does is, instead of a 1 through 10, with both of you taking that side of it and trying to convince, now it's a 1 through 15. We go get her. 16 through 20, we do not. Okay? And the invisible dice will tell us the truth. Let's try this. There we go. Right there. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Gotta remember how this damn thing works. We've only done 100 episodes. It's not like it's a big deal. Yep, that'll do it. With a 4. We're we're off to see the wizard. We
You
are.
are a wizard of Oz.
Yeah, so you are not going to get sleep, young lady. Look, it's too bad. It's too bad. So let's go ahead and end for tonight. All right. And when we take up next time, it's going to be the Three Stooges knocking on the door, trying to get her to come along with us and take care of this because we're up, we're full of caffeine, shit's going crazy. I'm talking to Rainlore, you guys are talking to monks and getting all these images. We need to figure this out, and they sound like they can help us, right? So let's go ahead and end it there. And then we'll let Bella think about it for a week and tell us how she's going to reject us and tell us no when it comes around. So, once again, I am Brian Kynes, thanking everyone for joining in and watching us. This has been a fun one. It's so interesting how the hell we try to get places, and then we just have fun. The ride is what it's worth, man. It's all good. I enjoy the trip. It's not always about the destination. So, with that, thanks for joining in this Sunday, and we will talk to you guys again with either Plan A or Plan B next Sunday. Have a good one, guys.